Today is December 19th. I hope you all have had a wonderful weekend. I'm getting started with the day, but the last time I chatted with you, I was getting ready to go to the Always Be Creating launch party, which is a new membership community for AAPI creators. And I had fun. I think I left just a little bit before 8. I saw my friend Avi there, but I didn't get a chance to say hi. If he watches this, I'm saying hello. And then Saturday, I got to meet up with Jerry, who's one of the co-founders of Always Be Creating and also runs a podcast called Dear Asian Americans, and got to record like a quick podcast with him. And then I had my final speaking engagement of the year in El Segundo. So this was also my first in-person speaking engagement too. And the topic was on, I think it was titled Ensuring Women's Financial Security. And personal finance is actually something that I am personally very passionate about, but I don't talk that much about it. I have been talking on a couple podcasts about how my advocacy area of interest is what I'm calling disability-centered economic justice, but I think you could also call it closing the disability wealth gap. But it's so serendipitous how that happened, because I was already planning to go, and Nina, who was going to be one of the panelists, had thought to pitch me as a speaker, and then her co-founder ended up getting sick and having to drop out, so I just ended up stepping in. And not only, it was my first time in El Segundo, but it was just so cute, that particular area. I ended up getting an early dinner afterward, and then getting Greg something. But I thought I would use this to reflect on my own financial journey. This isn't financial advice, but hopefully my personal experience will inspire you. I thought back to kind of like my money story, and I'm the daughter of Asian immigrants. My dad is a Taiwanese immigrant. My mom is a refugee from the Vietnam War. And my dad loved garage sales. I know I gave you a tour of my childhood bedroom in one of these past daily updates, but nothing I owned was new, or rarely anything I owned was new. Most of the furniture in my room was acquired at a garage sale. And I guess I learned two lessons from that. One was that everything is valuable. There's some value in everything. And actually, one of the interesting things, we've moved into our new apartment, and so we're just getting some furniture here and there. And yesterday I went to go build a shelf, and when I opened the shelf, it was broken, so we have to return that. And then I ended up wanting to go build another shelf, and I realized that the screw holes aren't big enough for the screws to fit in, so we're going to have to return that. And so sometimes buying an already assembled piece of furniture, maybe pre-owned, might be more helpful because it's already all assembled and working, instead of having to go through this whole like return process. The second thing I learned was that I kind of just grew up feeling that nothing was mine, like I didn't own anything, and that I just grew up feeling like I wasn't financially abundant. And I feel very grateful that I have lived in the same home. I lived in the same home in Maryland suburbia. That was just like how I grew up. And I remember when I was trying to decide where to go to college, I was so concerned about the costs. And I was trying to decide between my state school or a private institution. And I think the private school was like 4 times as much. And also keep in mind that my dad passed away when I was 9. So I was also watching my mom work so hard to support 4 kids. And at the time my dad passed away, we were 9 to 14 years old. So we were all entirely dependent on her. That's kind of what I grew up with. My mom told me that I should go to school where I wanted to go to school and not worry about the costs. And I feel very privileged to be able to have that opportunity, because I did end up going to the private institution, which I think ultimately, which not only laid the groundwork for the disability advocacy work that I do now, but launched my career in financial services And being a senior in high school, I had no knowledge of not only what I wanted to do for a career, but what were target schools or non-target schools. That is just some background. I started my career in investment banking, and right out of the gate with my base plus my bonus, I was making six figures and living in New York City in these doorman apartments. But at the same time, I was still aggressively saving. Even in my doorman apartment, I think the first apartment I ever lived in, I was paying $1,000 a month because it was a 1-bedroom that had been converted into 3. And all the meanwhile, I think that the bank had offered 401k matching. I was trying to do what I could to max out my 401k first to take advantage of the matching. I think a little bit before then, once you start working and getting a paycheck, you can actually open something called an IRA, which is another type of retirement vehicle. Once I started having summer internships, that's when I opened my IRA and I started maxing those out. Here I am. And that was right after my sophomore year of college that I opened the IRA. I'm starting to save a little bit there. And then now I'm able to put money into a 401k. And then every employer that I had after that, I would make sure that I would max out the 401k. Well, first I'd make sure that I had an emergency fund, which is about 6 to 12 months of your monthly costs in a high yield savings account that you do have access to if an emergency cost does come up. And I have had a couple of those with health related bills and other things like that, or even kind of thinking about my move journey to LA. We were going to stay with a friend for a period of time, but then last minute she ended up getting COVID, so we had to book an Airbnb. And sometimes those like surprise costs would come in where it was something we weren't anticipating. One of the other things that I did in those early years was my mom encouraged me to buy a piece of real estate. And ultimately I bought the apartment that I was going to live in, or I lived in there for 1 year, and then I still own it. Now I've been owning it for 10 years, but now have rental income to help cover my mortgage and HOA costs and property taxes, and maybe have a little bit of cushion for other things. But I will say that knowing that I had that rental income coming in made moving into entrepreneurship a little bit more seamless. I also am of the mindset that I know that I'm in an extremely privileged position because some of us who rely on government or public or disability benefits have income caps. What I've tried to do is try to reinvest, use whatever privilege I have, make sure I'm taken care of, make sure my family's taken care of, and then reinvest back into my community. I've done that a couple different ways. I run the Awesome Foundation Disability Chapter, and we've awarded 70 grants to 70 projects in 10 different countries, and it's almost 70,000. And then we launched a year and a half ago, we launched the Disability Empowerment Endowed Fund at Georgetown, where I was able to put in $50K, and then we crowdfunded the rest. And in 2023, it will have surpassed the $100K that it's needed to start making distributions. And part of the reason why I chose an endowment fund is when it's an endowment, it's an investment vehicle. So only a percentage of it is distributed every year. And then the rest is put into investment funds so that it continues to grow as the market grows. So if you're unsure of where to start, or at least for me, I guess the way I think about it is I have my emergency fund. I make sure the retirement accounts that I have available are maxed out. And then I think about making a couple investments if I have some extra, I call it like extra credit money, and that money can go into investing in startups, which I've done. It can go, which are like a riskier thing to do. It can go in investing in like funds, like index funds, like ones that follow, that follow like the S&P 500. And I think if you look if you look at like the past 30 years, like go and take a look at the performance of the S&P 500 over the past 30 years, and you'll see a general trend that is going up. Index funds, and then if you want to be a little bit riskier, you can invest in individual stocks of companies that you're a big fan of. But I often tell people, or you can invest in like cryptocurrency, which I've also done. I ended up buying a Bitcoin in 2013. But I often think about kind of like that extra credit as like, I'm investing this and I'm okay if I lose all of it, but it's amazing if it ends up doing well. And so that's kind of how I think about it. Last thing I'll do, but yeah, it also has gotten me thinking if I want to spend, I don't know if I'm doing it all right, but I think starting last year was the first year that I have felt financially stable on this entrepreneurship journey. And that's big. But last thing I wanted to share, I ended up getting a box from this company called Array. It's a jewelry company, and I thought I would do a little unboxing for you. One thing they do is you can try out jewelry for a period of time. On the inside here, it says, "From greatest moments to small victories and the journey to your happy place, we're here for it." And it's got this beautiful box on the inside. Let's go ahead and check it out. I went onto their website and I took their jewelry quiz, and they end up sending you the pieces that you can try them. Let's take a look here. And I ended up getting featured on their blog, and maybe if I'm a little bit more savvy, I will figure out how to put some screenshots of the feature here. But it says, "Fine jewelry, all of the fun, none of the pressure. Step 1, place each piece in its own pouch and then place all of them into the Array box. Step 2, place this box inside the outer box and everything in your USPS envelope. Drop off at USPS or schedule USPS." They sent me this that has already a prepaid label on it, and ended up taking their jewelry quiz, and so they're sending me a couple pieces that I wanted to try. Let's check it out. It's got a couple like cute cards in here that are color coordinated and stuff. One is about your ring size. The second is about your order and their 1-year repair warranty. And then you can actually have like a subscription where you get 5 pieces every 6 weeks that you can enjoy for 10 days. I think I did this backwards. I probably should have done the unboxing first and then worn the jewelry while I talk to you about personal finance. But here, beautiful packaging. Let's check out what we got. This is the first piece that I was excited about, that it came up in my, I have to like move it a lot but let's go ahead. Should we try it on? And I will say one of my TikToks that went semi-viral last year maybe was me putting on a necklace. But it's so dainty. The chain is very dainty. And it's got a piece of tape on it. All right, let's go ahead and try this out. I'm super excited to try this because in a past life, I worked for another jewelry company and I sold jewelry. And it just reminded me that wearing jewelry does impact how you feel about yourself. And the other thing I like is that I actually thought that there were 2 rings, but it's a pendant piece. So no risk of it kind of flying off. This is probably the most high-end piece that I ended up getting. We are gonna feel like $1 million. And I will use the camera as my mirror. Let's see. This is pretty advanced if I'm able to do this here. Let's see. I see. All right, I'm gonna step away for a second. Voila! That is the first piece. We'll put it back in the envelope. And let's check out the second piece. The second piece are these earrings. I just looked at myself in the mirror and I saw that my skin is like so dry today. It's like a little bit more involved. Then we got a ring. Maybe I'll put it on my middle finger. It's like I got a whole set that kind of goes together. And then the last piece, they were nice and they sent me an extra piece, is a layering piece that goes with this necklace. And this is the final look. Da 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 da. All right, bye everyone.